Hi and welcome back to another episode of Learning and Getting Equipped with the right information and knowledge to help you build a rewarding and fulfilling career. So today's conversation, guys, is about Gen Z, and this conversation is for you if you've been wondering, if you've been asking yourself questions of who are these Gen Zs? What is so unique about them? Of course, we've witnessed a move by the Gen Zs in Kenya, and when I was searching the internet this week, I realized that specifically in Kenya, the term Gen Z has the highest Google search. Of course, this is owed to the fact that I know many people were searching, just wanting to know who are the Gen Zs, what is it about them, and what makes them come out so strongly as they've come in just the previous or in the just ended anti-finance bill demonstrations in Kenya. We've experienced the power of Gen Zs. We've seen how bold they've come out to protest, or rather to say no to the finance bill 2024 in Kenya. And of course, this is something that has caught everybody in the nation by shock, probably because we never thought this force, or rather that Gen Z was as powerful as they are. So I know you're wondering who are the Gen Zs, and I know this has also left employers with no option, or rather this has left employers in a state that they are thinking deeply of how then can they accommodate Gen Zs, how can they create work environment, workplaces that Gen Zs will thrive. So if this is something that you want to get more information about, you want to learn about, today's video is all about Gen Zs. I want to have a conversation on who are the Gen Zs, and of course, what makes them who they are in terms of how they're coming out aggressively and boldly. And just in this video to discuss some of the problems that this group of the population face in the workplace. And I'll do this video, or rather I'll have this conversation in 2 episodes, this being the first one where I will discuss the problems that the Gen Zs face in the workplace, and in the next episode I'll talk about solution, how you as an employer can ensure that you create a work environment, or you create a workplace where Gen Zs can thrive to help you retain them. So to start with, it is quite important to define, or rather to give you a highlight of who the Gen Zs are. The Gen Z is the section of the population consisting of people who were born between 1997 and 2012. And of course, some research gives a wide range of options. Some say that they were born in the mid 1990s and of course late 2010s. So this is the population that consists of people born between 1997 and 2012. And currently research shows that Gen Zs consist of a global population of 2 billion people, and it is estimated by 2025 it is going to constitute, the Gen Zs are going to constitute 27% of the global workforce. So guys, from these statistics, you can clearly see that Gen Zs are already occupying, or rather the workplace is already having a substantial section or a substantial percentage of the Gen Zs. So it's quite important that for employers to be equipped in terms of how they're going to retain Gen Zs, because we can't really say that we don't want Gen Zs in the workplace. I know this is a section of the population that has very bad reputation when it comes to the workplace, where we say that they are difficult to work with, they are hard to work with. And in this conversation, we are going to see what really makes us, or what really makes employers, or what really makes the Gen X and the baby boomers and the millennials think that this generation is difficult to work with or hard to work with in the workplace. To start with, let us see some of the problems that the Gen Zs face, or rather some of the problems that are associated with the Gen Zs in the workplace. The first problem that the Gen Zs face in the workplace is problems around mental health. So why Gen Zs are, just to get to the background of this, why Gen Zs are associated with a lot of mental health problems, it's because this is the first generation to grow up in a full digital era. Research shows that 98% of Gen Zs own smartphones. And if you're a Gen Z, you can confirm that that's actually true. And up to around 78% of them have more than one gadget. That means a Gen Z will be having a laptop here, they have a smartphone, they have a tablet, and concurrently within one sitting, they will be using all these gadgets at the same time. So why has this caused a lot of stress? Because they are exposed, they're the generation that is more exposed to social media and have access to unfiltered type of information just at their fingertips. So one thing that's one thing, access to this information, whether good or bad. They stay more on social media, up to more than even 10 hours in a day, long stay in social media, and you understand the stress and anxiety that can come around with social media. So another thing that also can also cause mental health in the Gen Z population is their type of work or their mode of working. You realize that this is the group of people that can work long hours behind computers, sit for long hours without necessarily taking breaks, and this can lead to burnout and still anxiety. So this is why a report done by McKinsey shows that up to 55% of Gen Zs say that they've either suffered from mental health issues or they've been treated for mental health issues, at least within their career life. And if this generation began entering the workplace by 2019, you can imagine just in a span of like 5 or so years, we are registering, or rather research is recording, up to 55% of Gen Zs having gone through mental health problems. The second problem that they face is the issue on work-life balance. A Gen Z is a type of person, or a Gen Z is an employee who want to close their laptop at exactly 5. A Gen Z is an employee who is not happy to be called past 5 p.m. And if you're calling your Gen Zs past 5 p.m., you need to be rest assured that they're not happy about it, even if they've not come out boldly to say they're not happy about it. A Gen Z is an employee who do not want to receive calls or work-related conversations on a weekend or anytime past working hours. So they value quality life and they want to have a clear distinction between work and life. Gen Zs don't want to mix work and life. They don't want to carry work home, unlike the millennials or the Gen X or the baby boomers who are comfortable to work long hours at home or to carry work home. Gen Zs do not want to carry work home. So they value time of work, they value leave days, they value time of work, having leave days, having time to rest, taking breaks in between work, and they value an environment that will help them have a more quality life. And Gen Zs are actually mentored by people who have managed to strike a balance between work and life, and not people who are workaholic. People who are always always working 24/7. So that is a Gen Z for you. Work-life balance is key, and they still struggle, and of course to get a balance between these, owing to the fact that the current workplace or the nature of the workplace that is quite demanding with constant pressure. So Gen Z still find it very hard to get a balance between work and life in the current workplace. The third problem that these people face in the workplace, or rather the Gen Zs face in the workplace, is the need for instant gratification. And this is coupled by the fact that research shows that 70% of Gen Zs expect to get promoted in a period of 18 months just after getting into the workplace. So the Gen Zs typically want to pass the right career, or rather the right career trajectory of how someone gets through the corporate ladder. They want to get promoted in 18 months. The Gen Zs want to get to the workplace and become CEOs. They want to get to the workplace and become managers. Just in a period of 18 months, they want to have gotten promoted, which honestly sometimes is not, or rather most of the time is not realistic. So they overlook the experience of the entry-level jobs. And when the Gen Zs get into the workplace, due to this, what they actually expect and what they get on the ground, or the reality that is on the ground, they get frustrated because a Gen Z get into the workplace as an entry level and don't expect to stay in this role for 3 years or even 2 years before getting promoted. They get to the workplace and they think that after 18 months, they need to move to the next level. And if as an employer, you're not ready to have these conversations on how they are going to get there in the next 18 months, then it becomes a problem with the Gen Z in the workplace. They really struggle to balance ambition, and you also realize their expectations of salary is quite high, unlike what most entry-level jobs are able to give, or what most entry-level jobs are paying globally. The Gen Z's expectations of salary is incredibly higher. A research done by the Handshake shows that 70% of the Gen Zs have salary as their top priority when looking for jobs. So that is why Gen Zs are much comfortable to leave a job that is paying less than what they want to go to a job that pays higher, as long as their need for the salary will be met instantly. The next problem that the Gen Z still struggle with is on the diversity, equity, and inclusion. So Gen Zs value employers or value employment workplaces that value DEI, and research shows that up to 83% of Gen Zs prefer employers who have a diversity, equity, and inclusion in their workplace, and they're willing to leave even the most stable jobs if that is not aligned with the expectations in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if you're an employer out there and you're thinking of retaining Gen Zs, of course, this is one of the things to consider: to have a workplace which is inclusive, a workplace that embraces equality, a workplace that embraces and promotes diversity. The next problem that the Gen Zs face is managing distraction and being disengaged. And this can be owed to the fact that the Gen Zs are in a digital era. They're the digital nomads. They have phones, so they have constant distractions from social media, from all the access that they have, the type of information that they have all through. And research shows that 31% of Gen Zs, only 31% say that they're engaged, while 54% say that they are not engaged, and 15% of Gen Z say that they are highly disengaged. So you can imagine, with all access to the information that the Gen Zs have, with all the gadgets, where research shows that over 70% have up to more than one device at a go. So Gen Zs are constantly prone to distraction, and that's why you find that even in the workplace, most of the Gen Zs, you'll find there's that problem with productivity. And of course, this can be as a result, or rather this is a result of the constant distractions that the Gen Zs are exposed to from time to time, even during working hours. The next thing that the Gen Zs still struggle with is the desire for meaningful work. This is the section of the population, or this is the section of your employees who really value meaningful work. They don't just wake up and come to work because they have work. So they want a meaningful work, in that they want to see what they're doing actually translating to value and bringing meaning even in the society that they live in. So a LinkedIn report shows that 87% of the Gen Zs actually are willing to leave current employer or a current role if they feel they're not getting meaning in that work. So they want a meaningful work, and they want to see what they do. They want to see their contribution translate directly to a meaningful contribution in the society. So the Gen Zs are willing to leave companies that do not, or rather that are not involved in things that are going to bring meaning in the society or in the environment, are not engaging in activities such as the corporate social responsibility. They're not supporting the social agendas. They're not supporting agendas that are helping the community directly. So if your company is not being involved in things that will show a Gen Z that what they do, their work actually translates into a meaningful outcome, then research shows that 87% of your employees who are Gen Zs are actually willing to leave you for an employer who give them, or rather who put them in an environment where they feel their work is bringing more meaning. The next problem that the Gen Zs face, guys, is the difference in communication preference. This is the generation that prefer digital forms of communication. This is the generation that can send your text message and you're in the same room with them, even if you're their boss. This is the generation that embrace communication on emails. They send emails. Whereas the previous generations, such as the millennials, the Generation X, or the baby boomers, still prefer the traditional ways of communication, which involves face-to-face communication. So there is a struggle. There is a struggle between the Gen Z and the other generations, which prefer face-to-face. We still find text messages. Gen Zs prefer instant text messages to communicate, even in the workplace. They prefer emails to communicate. And this other generation want to embrace our traditional forms of communication, such as face-to-face. And of course, this still brings a problem between the Gen Zs and the other generations that are in the workplace. The next problem is the career advancement and growth. So the Gen Zs do not just come to jobs to stay in them for life, guys. And why I say so is that if you've worked with the Gen Zs, you know that this is the generation that find it so easy to resign, even if they don't have a plan B. They'll just wake up, and if there's something they don't like about that workplace, or if there's something they don't like about their work, they just resign even without a job. This is a generation that resigns and are comfortable to go and stay home without a job. So why career development is quite important for them is that they want to, most of the Gen Zs actually just use their current job as a stepping stone to where they want to go to. They are not there to stay in that job forever, guys. So you find that Gen Zs are more keen, or rather will stay longer in jobs that have very clear career trajectory, or a very clear career progression. They're very clear of where this job is going to take them. So if a Gen Z can tell, or rather can see that the current job can easily take them to where they want to be in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, then they'll be very, very comfortable to stay in that job. They want to be in a job where they see the future. And you need to provide career development opportunities and growth opportunities for them. So this is the time for you as an employer to begin thinking of having career mentorship programs, bringing in career mentors, pairing Gen Zs with older employees, with more experienced employees, just for mentorship, coaching, and guidance. So they're molded, or rather, they're able to see a future in the job that they are in. If you're going to keep a Gen Z in a job that they don't see the future, I promise you they're not going to stay for long, because they're more focused on where is this job going to take me next? What is my future with this job? They're not just here to get the money, to get the salary in this job and stay there forever. The next problem is the technology dependency. We've been told that this is the generation that has grown fully in the digital era. This is the generation that has grown in the era where we have smartphones, we have different type of gadgets, we are using tablets, we are using laptops. So they are the most tech-savvy generation, which is an advantage in the workplace, because we need the tech savviness, we need the fresh perspectives that the Gen Zs bring about by being so knowledgeable about technology. But we find it as a problem that the Gen Zs are facing, especially because of the over-reliance, that they can almost hardly do something without technology. So what does this mean for you as an employer who doesn't have a place, all right, or who do not have the current technology in your workplace? You're not going to retain the Gen Zs, because they can't do manual work. They're not the type of people who are going to walk around with papers. They're the type of people who want to automate everything, who want to work in processes that are highly automated. So if you're still going to have Gen Zs walk around with the papers, walk around with manual work, you're not really going to retain them in your workplace. So that's one of the problems, the over-reliance on technology. But of course, in the next episode, in the second episode of this conversation about Gen Zs, we are going to see how then as an employer, you can ensure that the technological savviness of the Gen Zs actually work to the advantage of your business. The next challenge that the Gen Z still face is the need for instant feedback. So the Gen Z is the generation, these are your employees who need instant feedback once they've completed a project. These are the employees who need instant recognition if they've done a good job. They don't want to wait for you to say well done during the appraisals. They don't want to wait for you to tell them you did a good job during the end of the quarter. They are not going to be happy about it. They are the generation that if they've done work wrong, they want constant feedback on how they are doing on their work. They are not going to wait for you to ridicule or rather to give them a negative feedback during the appraisal. It will come as an offense. It will become very offensive to them. So the Gen Z is the type of generation that needs instant feedback on the work done, instant feedback and correction if they've not done something right, because they are very learning oriented. They really have a culture of continuous learning. That's why you're going to find Gen Zs on platforms such as YouTube, Coursera, Udemy, watching tutorial videos to learn about a concept. So they want to learn. They want to learn from their mistakes. They want to improve. They're a generation that they want to be better every day. So you're not going to keep feedback away from them for long and think it's okay with them. So that is the Gen Z for you, the section of your employees who want you to give them instant feedback immediately they complete a task, instant recognition immediately they do something good, and not wait to give it at the end of the quarter or during the appraisals. Another challenge is the Gen Zs have is the challenge with the traditional work structures. There are still workplaces that have the traditional work structures. The Gen Zs are coming out strongly with fresh perspectives of how work is done, and they are they are boldly challenging the traditional work structures and work hierarchies. Today, the Gen Zs are your section of the employees who can boldly walk into the CEO's office without necessarily coming to you as their line manager, because they don't believe in hierarchies. They don't believe in the escalation matrix that we have at the workplace. They don't believe in the sequential ways of doing things. So this is the Gen Zs for you. They are going to challenge the traditional work structures and hierarchies, and you're going to think that that is intimidation. You're going to think that that is insubordination, but that is just how the Gen Zs work. They want to come in, they come in with fresh perspectives, and they're wondering why you need to you have a very long approval matrix for a project to be done. They're actually wondering why they have to have a sign-off form, or rather an approval with over 10 people. The Gen Zs are wondering why they need to go through 3 or 4 people before they actually reach the person who has the decision making. So they'll rather go just directly to the decision maker, maybe who is the CEO, the COO, or the departmental head. So that's why if you are working with the Gen Zs, you'll agree that you have been bypassed several times, especially if you can't make the decisions, if they believe that the final decision does not lie with you. Don't get offended. That's just how the Gen Zs work in the current workplace. The next problem is the financial literacy and financial planning. The Gen Zs are living their life now. That's why they're more concerned about salary. And the problem that this has is that they want to make the money now and live with it now. Unlike other generations, even our parents or the previous generations that are more focused on saving, thinking about the future, concerned about pension. Today, when you're negotiating with a Gen Z for an offer, they don't care about the pension. You'll tell them, oh, this is what the pension looks like. They don't care about the pension. They'll rather have a higher salary than a higher pension contribution. So they still have problem in terms of financial planning, in terms of financial literacy. They want to get the money and use all of it. They say YOLO, you only live once. They are living for now. So that's how the Gen Zs are. And if you're an employer who really wants to help you, Gen Z section of the employees, then you really need to include a lot of financial literacy programs to ensure that they are saving what they are making from the employment, or else we are going to have a generation that shall have worked but shall have not invested, or shall have worked and money in their formative, or rather in their prime years, and coming out of employment or coming out of it without anything. Even out of employment, even the Gen Zs who are not in employment, we need to include a lot of financial literacy and planning programs are for the Gen Zs. And the last problem, guys, is that the Gen Zs are still actively dancing with job security and the gig economy. And you know, the gig economy is the labor market that relies heavily on temporary and part-time positions which they fill with independent contractors and freelancers rather than having full-time and permanent employees. And we are in the era of gig economy. And you realize that most of the Gen Zs are preferring to get into the gig economy to offer their services as freelancers. That is the generation that has the highest level of freelancers rather than going into permanent or rather permanent and stable employment. So this is why this is a problem in the current workplace. A Gen Z will get into your workplace, get a permanent job, and has a side hustle somewhere or has a freelance job somewhere that is actually paying them more than the work that they're doing. So within no time, they realize that this is not something that is that can keep them, and they're very okay to leave that employment and continue with the freelancing. So the gig economy actually, and what I always ask myself also, in terms of just looking at it futuristically, in terms of the talent accessibility in the workplace, with the gig economy, with the Gen Zs embracing it, how are we going to have talents in the next 5 years to employ in permanent positions? Maybe that's a question that you as an employer need to ask yourself. So yeah, that is one of the problems that the Gen Z still face, dancing between the permanent jobs, or rather the job security, and gig economy, where we see that most of the Gen Zs are embracing gig economy, freelancing work, and working as independent contractors. So guys, you have it. Those are some of the problems that the Gen Zs face in the workplace. I thought this was quite important to discuss, so that as an employer or as a manager who work with the Gen Zs in the workplace, you get to understand from the genesis of this, of why the Gen Zs carry out themselves, how they do it, so that even when we discuss the problems in the next episode, then you're well equipped, you understand your Gen Zs, you don't judge them, you don't make them feel like they're really doing a problem, because honestly there's a bad vibe already going on about the Gen Zs, where we say they're difficult to work with, they're difficult to retain, they leave the workplace very quickly, they are job hoppers, and so on and so forth. But the next episode is actually going to show you how you can take advantage of the Gen Zs, because this is also another best, I call them the best group of the best section of your employees, because they have fresh perspectives, they are tech savvy, they are very agile, they are very innovative, they are very creative, and if you take good advantage of them, they can actually help your business scale to the next level. So next up, on to the next episode. Ensure you watch this next episode so you're able to connect this conversation. Thank you for watching this one. See you in the next episode.